needed children. Evidence also supports that children's enrollment, attendance, and increased attendance and equity has been increased, including girls and special needs children, and has improved teacher attendance and absenteeism. Women have been empowered and they have gained a lot of skills. Women also have a voice in the education of their children. Children also have been given a voice in taking decisions concerning their education, and also have been participating in their own in education. Recently, a study was conducted to examine the present context of education in Nigeria, as education in the Save the Children ESPIN program, in view of our present context in Nigeria. The findings revealed that there will now be need for us to start thinking about a conflict-sensitive education and safe schools, among others. SBNC is one of such vehicles that can help us to leave no child behind, as well as ensure sustainability of the education of our children by engaging with communities and ensuring better schooling. At this juncture, I would like to thank all of you, all the state representatives, the committees who have continued to work well with Save the Children and ESPIN program by ensuring access, equity, and quality of education in Nigeria. We also want to thank all our partners and all the SUBEB representatives, and all of you are distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Benedicta Agusiobo. Sorry we had to make you strain a little bit due to, power. The last key, I beg your pardon, goodwill message will be delivered by Mr. Chris Afiabo. He's representing the Director General of NIEPA, that's National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, Dr. Peter K. Ojedele. Mr. Chris Afiabo is the representative. Can we give him a round of applause, please, as he comes to give his goodwill message? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Education represented the Executive Chairman, Executive Secretary UBEC represented Chairman, House Committee on Education, all other Executive Secretaries, Chief Executive Officers and Directors of commissions, agencies, and other parastatals, state commissioners of education and their contingents from states, the chairman of SUBEB from states, IDPs, NGOs, other stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen. I present to you a goodwill message on behalf of Dr. Peter Ojedele, the Director General, National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration. I am delighted to be associated with the event of today. I congratulate Universal Basic Education Commission and Education Sector Support Program in Nigeria. The experience of the past decade has underscored the need for better governance of education systems in terms of efficiency, accountability, transparency, and flexibility so that they can respond more effectively to the diverse and continuous changing needs of learners. Reform of educational management is urgently needed to move from highly centralized, standardized, and command-driven forms of management to a more decentralized and participatory decision-making, implementation, and monitoring at lower levels of accountability. It is widely acknowledged that as countries move from management to governance, the trend illustrates a rising number of decisions made at local levels. Communities and stakeholders are now asked to manage resources with accountability, making informed decisions, and effective deployment of resources. Community participation in management increases the likelihood that educational planning and accompanying systems will run more efficiently with sensitivity to needs of gender and disadvantaged groups. The mobilization of community support at the school or facility level. Community governance for effective decentralization relies on local level planning to establish baseline benchmarks against which time-bound targets setting accompanied by relevant strategies has to be undertaken. Community participation in planning in area-based and area-specific. It may be at the school, village, neighborhood, cluster, or district levels. The National Council on Education at its 52nd meeting approved the establishment of school-based management committees, SBMCs, to assist head teachers in ensuring positive development of schools in Nigeria. This approval came with the objectives and identified roles and responsibilities for SBMCs, which states as follows: collaboration with the community to sensitize and mobilize parents on enrollment, attendance, and retention of their children or wards in schools. Monitor staff with regard to attendance at school and effectiveness in curriculum delivery. Support the head teacher in innovative leadership and management of schools. Monitor school physical facilities with a view to ensure their proper maintenance. Assist in the procurement of teaching, learning materials, and resources. Report to LGEA on a regular basis on developments in the school. Serve as a medium of transmission of skills, knowledge, values, and traditions of the community. Assist head teachers in treating discipline problems in schools. Ensure security of human and material resources and render annual statement of accounts, income, expenditure, and identify staff requirements. These roles and responsibilities outlined in SEE approval of establishment of SBMCs calls for the need to train and retrain the SBMC members if they are to deliver on the expectations that is targeted at achieving the education for all and the Millennium Development Goals targets. The issue of gender disparities in enrollment and other related areas are serious developmental issues which feature in the Education for All and Millennium Development Goals. To successfully address this, there is need to improve community participation in the management and planning of education for purpose of improving the gender disparities in educational enrollment, retention, achievement in Nigeria schools. NAEPA, in collaboration with UNICEF and other critical stakeholders, develop manuals for building capacity members of SBMCs. Once again, I thank the organizers for this laudable and giant effort at organizing the conference, and I wish you most successful and fruitful deliberations as we get along. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fiabo. Remember that this program and project is supported by a number of people, One very important group is commissioners for education from various states. And so Alhaji Aliyu is trying to get us a representative of the commissioners to give us a brief goodwill message. He's trying to organize that for us before we go into the keynote. Okay, so we'll bring you Professor Okoro, Commissioner for Education in Enugu State. Can we give him a round of applause, please? Yes, sir. Short goodwill message, sir, from you. On behalf of all the commissioners, Professor Okoro, Commissioner for Education in Enugu State. Give him another round of applause. He's coming to do that. Ndewo. Ndewo. Ndenugu ndewo nu. Dishikeo.
Well, let me first salute all members of the high table and say that I wasn't expecting that I would be called upon. Well, be it as may be, I thank you for the opportunity to say that the purpose of this conference is well understood, and that coming together in this kind of gathering to be able to sensitize the public to know the importance of communities in trying to help run school system cannot be overemphasized. So I thank ESPIN in Nigeria. I also thank UBEC for what it's doing to be sure that our people are mobilized in trying to do what they're supposed to do. One of the very serious experiences we are having, which try to set this program back, is the communities thinking that when they become members of a school-based management committee, that is an opportunity for government to pay them salaries. And when the salaries are not coming, people tend to think that government is not doing enough. But that is not the idea. Well, I thank God that in those communities where the school-based management committee have been institutionalized and people have understood what it means, that there have been effort in this direction to be able to bring our people to work with government and be able to now move the schools forward. We have instances where school-based management committees have been able to attract projects by very wealthy individuals in the community to be able to build schools. We have records, which of course are evidence-based, to show that the communities are beginning to be aware that the children should be taken care of properly, that there is the policy which has to do with the school system, school for all, no matter the condition of every child, that every child has right to education. So I thank God that we're here today, and that maybe by the time we now rub minds, beginning from today, tomorrow, we are going to go home with something much better than what we used to know. And as we go back, I'm sure that a lot of effort will be put on deck to be sure that our people are totally mobilized towards understanding what school-based management committee is all about, and then making sure that everybody in Nigeria knows that education is only key to any development we can have. So I thank you all for this short listening. Thank you very much.
I personally think that Professor Okoro's round of applause should be much louder. He has done as only a professor can do, as they called him promptu. And we were now wondering, did he prepare speech? Okay, moving on, it's time for our keynote address, which was to be delivered by the Honorable Minister of Education. He has sent an able representative in the person of Deputy Director in the Ministry of Education, Mrs. Comfort Egon Nweke. So can we please give her a round of applause as she comes to give us the keynote address. Good afternoon, our very distinguished royal fathers, our very distinguished House of Representatives Committee Chairman, the Executive Secretary. I want to sincerely apologize for coming in late for the program, and I hope I'll be forgiven because I got the time mixed up. Please, I plead that my apologies be accepted. I'm very sorry for coming in late for the program. I plead to stand on the existing protocols. My director was supposed to represent the Honorable Minister, but right now they are in Owerri for an assignment. So I would read the address on the behalf of the Honorable Minister of Education, Shekarau, that sent the Honorable Minister of State, that sent my minister, and they are both on an assignment. It's a big shoe, so I hope I'll be allowed and accepted to read the address just as I'm asked to read. Thank you very much. An address by the Honorable Minister of State for Education, Professor Mrs. V. Onwoliri, presented at the National Conference on Community Participation in School Governance, held at Nigerian Air Force Conference Center and SEALS, Abuja. I'm delighted to address you on this auspicious occasion of the National Conference on Community Participation in School Governance. This Stakeholders Conference is another significant milestone in our collective approach towards addressing key issues in respect of the UBEC program implementation. That is why I'm highly impressed by your turnout in spite of the short notice given to you for this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, the Universal Basic Education Program of the federal government is a bold effort towards actualizing its commitment to international education convention, particularly the 1990 Jamaican World Education Conference and the Dakar EFA Declaration of 2000. The UBEC program is also a launch pad for the attainment of MDG goals and other agreements and treaties that have been entered into in the bid to better the lives of the citizens of this country. Let me emphasize that the success of UBEC programs depends largely on the collective efforts of all stakeholders. Equally important is the effective collaboration of us all in the attainment of the set objectives of basic education programs. It has been observed that there has always been a wide gap between well thought out policies and their eventual implementation in the field. In order to ensure that this trend does not affect UBE programs, deliberate efforts have been made to ensure that all stakeholders, particularly the beneficiaries of UBE fully, and UBEC initiatives, I must through which governments at all levels as well as all segments of the society will be given substantial opportunity to make useful contributions to the attainment of state goals and objectives in the delivery of basic education. This Stakeholders Conference is therefore aimed at establishing a wide range of sensitization, advocacy, and mobilization activities to gender support and facilitate the smooth implementation of basic education programs at grassroots levels. I congratulate the Universal Basic Education Commission for this laudable initiative. I therefore call on the government at all levels to deploy available resources that will ensure the success of the UBE programs and initiatives. Make people understand that the Universal Basic Education is their program and therefore they should be fully involved.
accelerate the drive towards the attainment of the 100% enrollment, retention, and completion targets, reorient the public perception of education as an end rather than a means, propagate and promote the spirit of dignity of labor in pupils, parents, and the society, sensitize parents and guardians on the socioeconomic implementation of not enrolling and retaining their children and wards in school, and mobilize stakeholders for effective participation in UB program and activities. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt that the outcome of this conference will only serve as a useful guide for our community to set up school-based management committees in our schools, but ensure their functionality in all aspects of quality education delivery in Nigeria. It is also of note, it is on this note that I declare the Stakeholders Conference open. I wish you successful deliberation. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.
Can we give another round of applause to the Honorable Minister of Education, who has been ably represented? You know how these things work. The Minister will receive the memo, sent to the Executive Secretary, please advise. The Executive Secretary will send to the Director, take action. The Director will send to DD, oh yeah, move. So Madam, thank you for coming. Thank you so much. All right. We're good to go, and I'm happy that everybody is smiling, but I can see some people yawning as well. I don't know whether it's hunger or it's being tired or it's both. But we're going for a group photograph, and after that we'll go for tea break. I said to my colleague, I said, we better go and take tea before the tea will turn to...
Okay. Right, hello. My name is Kayode Sani, National Program Manager for the Education Sector Support Program in Nigeria, also known as ESPIN. ESPIN is a basic education reform program working in 6 states in Nigeria. Key areas of focus are school improvement. And by school improvement, we're talking about improving the overall quality of teaching and learning in our schools, so that children in those schools have a fair chance at improving their learning outcomes. Now, critical to that school improvement process is the role of the community. So in the last 6 years, we've supported the 6 states to establish school-based management committees who effectively serve as an interface between the schools and the communities. Evidence over the last 3 years clearly indicates the powerful potential that these school-based management committees have in terms of contributing to the overall quality of schools. So we're gathered here today and tomorrow to basically come together as a group of reflective practitioners, as we call them, to take stock of where we've got to, review evidence, examples of impact in terms of contributions that communities are making, have made, and continue to make to overall school improvement. So I'm quite excited that over the next 2 days we shall be hearing from, a diverse range of states, LGAs, and communities in terms of different ways that communities through their SPMCs are contributing. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So the name, who you are?
Well, my name is Sani Abdullahi. I'm the Executive Chairman of Jigawa State Universal Basic Education Board. What else? Well, the role of communities in basic education is very significant, is very important. We feel, especially in my state, Jigawa State, the role of community development, its importance cannot be overemphasized, because until these school-based management committees were formed, there had been very, very little community participation, which resulted in almost pupil desertion of our schools, teachers not accountable to their responsibilities. But with the coming of the SBMCs, when they were inaugurated by His Excellency Governor Sule Lamido in August 2008, we started to see remarkable changes in the way communities perceive their roles with regard to basic education. And we see very important changes coming up because communities started to own these schools. They started to participate in every aspect of their schools. For instance, they are responsible for visiting the board to inform it of one or any of the school's problem and make requests where we sit down to discuss and digest problems that affect basic education, their schools in particular. And consequently, there is a very important reform that is taking place because we feel that wherever these SBMCs have taken root, there is evidence that even if the government doesn't do anything, these communities will certainly take up these responsibilities and continue running their schools as they are being done, as it is being done at the moment. So we feel the role of SBMC, in other words, the communities, is very essential in Jigawa State, and it has helped us to really move our schools forward. You see a remarkable difference between a school where an SBMC is functional and a school where the SBMC is not functional. We therefore feel that we have to engage these communities, ensure that they come forward to really take over their schools, because in a very significant manner, the communities own these schools. There is no way in which you can say these schools are owned by either the commissioner or the chairman of the SUBEB. The communities have been made to feel that these schools are their own, and they are now responsible for even closing the windows when the headmasters forget to ask the pupils to close this window. So I think there is a very significant improvement that is coming up because of this improved community participation in school governance.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much.
An overview of ESPIN from 2008 to 2015. And this centered around who we are as a program and what have we been able to achieve. Achieve with our partners, achieve with our peoples, and also achieve with other stakeholders, especially UBEC. ESPIN I would like to start with this quote from UNESCO. Community, it says, communities are the overall context in which children live and learn, and in which they apply what they have been taught, the values, the involvement of families, community leaders, other community members are vitally important for getting all children in school and helping them to learn successfully. And I'm sure the theme of this conference attests to that in terms of making community work for better schools. ESPIN as a program has worked over the last 6 years, and based on evidence and achievement, it has been extended for another 2.5 years. As earlier speakers have mentioned, it works in 6 states of Kano, Kaduna, Kwara, Enugu, Lagos, and Jigawa. ESPIN has one long-term impact, and which is improved learning outcomes for all children of basic school age.
It also has 3 key outcomes. One is around better quality based on integration of effective head teacher support, support to teachers to become competent, and support to making SBMC functional and inclusive. It also has another broad partnership as one of its key outcomes, including communities and civil society. The last outcome relates to sustainable planning and budgeting for basic education delivery in supported states. I would like us to reflect as an overview, where did we start from? Because there's an adage which goes, if you don't know where you are coming from, you don't know where you are going. So where did we start from? In 2009, we undertook a research in the 6 SPIN states to ascertain the degree and the extent to which communities and SBMC are working to support school improvement. From that research, it was obvious that some of the findings include women and children participation were highly constrained, and for the children in particular, it was not acceptable. We also, from that research, deduced that the roles and responsibility of SBMC were not clear, and in most instances, they were not understood by SBMC and by community members. SBMCs were focused on implementing projects and grants, and so their participation were tailored to building infrastructure, self-help grants, and so on and so forth, with limited involvement in making decision-making more inclusive and more participatory. We also looked at the issue around community support. And from that research, one key finding that came up was that communities were willing to support education delivery across the 6 states. That appetite was there by all communities to support basic education delivery. And from that research, we begin to ask a number of trigger questions. For example, we're thinking, could SBMC be the vehicle that could bring about change and transformation in basic education? We also thought about, could social mobilization departments be that institutional home that will bring about change? And also what capacity exists in states as well as in UKAID to support and drive this reform agenda. We also looked at critical questions about the involvement of civil society. In the EFA goal, their role is very key, and we want to unearth the extent to which civil society were engaged in education delivery and not as watchdog. We also looked at, can community participation involve women and children in decision-making at the state level, at the community level, at the LGA level, and also at the state level. So we started with that research, and also we subjected ourselves to answer some more fundamental questions. After the research, how are we going to drive the process? How do we start? We started by developing a framework. How do we translate the research findings into actions? We then we went into the process of envisioning the states, envisioning the LGA, as well as envisioning the communities, to be able to determine and debate around their remit, their functions, their roles, and their responsibility. Together with states, we went through the process, and at the end, each state was able to domesticate the national policy In that context, each state now have a school-based management policy guidelines. We also looked at how are they going to manage and implement this program. We looked at development of the guidebooks. We also looked at development of training resource. We supported UKAID to revise its guidelines on school-based management committee. We also looked at, after the training, that support should not end. So we developed a mentoring and monitoring guidebook to support the activation and functionality of school-based management committee across SB supported state and by extension support UKAID to do same. That was the situation and where we are now. We looked at SPMC development in the 6 states, where we started with 1,200 schools, implying that we started with a pilot in our 6 states with 1,200 schools, thereabouts. But I'm happy to tell you today that resulting from our partners' efforts, SPIN is now working in over 10,000 schools, with Kano State having the largest portion of this, of rolling out SBMC to over 5,000 schools. We do also have differentiated state support and commitment in terms of resources, in terms of a key critical capacity needs that will bring about SBMC functionality. We've seen that in Kano, we've seen that in Lagos, where in Lagos and Kano, SBMC is rolled out across all schools within the state. And this is again supported by state resources. Other states are at varying degrees of support, and I'm sure all the state representatives are here, and when you go out to the stands, they will be able to explain that better. From our monitoring instruments, validated and triangulated by other instruments, 80% of these SBMCs are functional and are taking direct action to improve schools and support children to get a better education. We've also seen a substantial change in behavior from communities, talking about owning their schools, talking about how their demand can be met by education managers. And I visited our 2 states where the SUBEB's chair said to me, my office is flooded with SBMC and community, talking about the desired change to bring about school improvement and education delivery in their state. So this attests to the fact that SBMC, I'm sure, has come to stay in Nigeria, and we had 2 countries coming to Nigeria to understudy this approach of community participation, Ethiopia and Burundi. We are here to understudy the SBMC development in Nigeria in partnership with UKAID. We've also been able to support SBMC voice, demand, and accountability through formation of forums and safe spaces where women, children, and the SBMC can interface with the education managers to make demands and to get response to issues that have been raised substantially. We've also seen that SBMC, government, civil society are partnering. Not only they are partnering, but states are willing to invest their resources in partnering with civil society, contracting them to support in basic education delivery. And we would like to commend all states for taking that initiative. Women and children, safe spaces. We've also gone into supporting an identification of gender role models, female role models, and male role models to bring about desired change on access and equity issues, especially the girl child. Our civil society organizations, whom we're partnering with, we started with 43, but as to date, state investment has risen the profile and number of civil society organizations to over 60 that are currently being engaged and contracted by government to support community participation in their respective states. Building strength nationally, what have we done so far? We have an MOU signed with UBEC, and the lessons are not far-fetched. We supported UBEC to undertake a study visit, an experience sharing visit to Kaduna, and that turned around the support and partnership we are presently witnessing today. Resulting from that, we had an MOU. We supported them technically to roll out SBMC across other states that are non-ESPN states. And to date, UBEC has committed a huge sum of resources across the state through the TPD fund to support SBMC development. We've also invested hugely in terms of capacity building for UBEC core master trainers, based on the fact that ESPN is working in 6 states, and to replicate this nationally, we need that institution and those mechanisms that will be able to do that. And to date, the core master trainers of ESPN, last week, we are trained on mentoring and monitoring to support other states to implement. We also do have a robust monitoring instrument available to track changes over time that are also triangulated by other instruments such as the qualitative study, the composite survey, case study development, and the SMO reporting. There is therefore an evidence that SBMC are having a strong impact on enrollment, retention, transition of children, and the quality of education received in schools. In terms of institutional capacity for sustainability and scale-up, it is good to support school-based management development in the country, but if there is no sound institutional systems available to support and replicate and sustain this process, then it's going to be a waste of time. ESPN has invested a lot in supporting social mobilization departments across the 6 states and UBEC to support this development. We've also been able to support UBEC technically to be in the driver's seat and thus leading the SBMC replication nationwide. The CSOs we are working with are now able to interact and interface with governments through evidence to make case and demand for school improvement in the state. We also do have capacity development within the LGA with the social mobilization officers and the civil society organization as co-facilitator to support the process, believing that nobody has monopoly of knowledge. The civil society have a role to play. The SMOs also have a role to play, but a partnership between these two can bring about change in education delivery. SBMC are also supported in terms of access, equity issues, quality of improvement, and they are making demands through the appropriate channel. Women and children are also reflecting their concern in school development plans and decision makings at that level. And we'll continue to engage with other key stakeholders and partners in delivering this process. Communities are also looked at in terms of making the approach inclusive, the integrated Quranic Sangaya education, where we are supporting 27,000 IQTE schools across the 6 states. Again, Kano stand out in terms of rolling out this process, which we started with 3 LGAs. Kano State have approved substantial amount of money to take the IQTE model to 27 LGAs as we speak. What are the key features of the IQTE model of ESPIN? We have tried to work with the Malams and the Alaramas and Subeb to make it participatory in a manner that the teaching hours of learners are adjusted to accommodate the integration. We do also have rigorous teacher training programs for community-based teachers. We also involve the Malams, like I've earlier mentioned, in the selection of these teachers because they are community-based. The Malam need to trust that teacher A or B fits to be part of that process. We also have taken these IQTE schools to become participatory in their decision-making through the formation of school support committees, which is made up of our 5 to 6 committee members. We have also been able to support KE at Kano Education Research Development, looking at the basic education curriculum, condensing that from 6 years to 4 years. We also have a routine assessment to measure and track changes in people's learning outcomes. Resulting from the condensed curriculum, with the first cohort we have started, 677 students sat and passed the Kano State, Jigawa, and Kaduna State entrance examination and are now in the junior secondary schools using the condensed curriculum. We've also been able to support women from the Almajiri sector. These are women whose children, the Almajiri boys or the girl child who goes to Islamia instead of acquiring an integrated approach, are supported with skills acquisition to support their daughters and reduce hawking and so on and so forth. So again, there is support going to the women or mothers of the Almajiri children. We've also been able to come up with an innovative approach to support the Almajiri boys. Some of them could range between 4 years up to 18 years. We've supported about 465 Almajiri boys with skills acquisition, ranging from tie and dye, carpentry, phone repairs, and so on and so forth. We are also working tirelessly with Subeb to implement this process. One of the keynote addresses earlier by my program manager talks about leave no child behind. And the executive secretary, Nomadic Education, also talked about if we are planning, let's plan for all. If we are designing, let's design for all. And that informed ESPIN inclusive education approach to getting all children, irrespective of their background, gender, abilities or disabilities to be part of that process. We've been able to reach our over 12,000 learners in the nomadic education work. We are supporting 90 nomadic schools in Jigawa State, and this is the number reached so far, where learners are receiving or accessing basic education. 30 out of these 90 have been taken over by the Agency for Nomadic Education in Jigawa State. Again, that is the essence of partnership, and that is the essence of showing best practice. We have also increased public participation, support committees, and capacity of these 90 school committees to be able to support children, especially the girls, as you can see them. In all the schools, you find out that the percentage of boys and girls, in some instances, you find that the girls are more than the boys in Jigawa State. Building strength resources to support SBMC development. Like I earlier mentioned, states are utilizing part of the intervention from teacher professional development from UKAID to support this process since 2012. We are leveraging some resources from state resources, not from the intervention fund. For example, in Kano, where Kano State have put in over 90 million to support SBMC with state resources. We have also supported, we are also looking, and we are happy to catch a big fish this morning. The presence of the House Committee Chair on Education in terms of revision of the UBE law, with the hope that once the bill is passed, there will be some resources to support schools in the country. Direct funding to schools, again, in terms of meeting basic priority needs of schools, are being addressed in all states. For example, Lagos and Jigawa states. Communities are also contributing huge sum of money to support this process. How are SBMC supporting education in the 6 states? This ranges from monitoring teachers' absenteeism to liaising with LGA and SUBEB, making demands and expecting response, and holding teachers and LGA managers to account, improving the school environment, making it safe for teachers and children, and taking action on child protection issues which occurs in and around the school environment. The communities are also supporting inclusive education practices. Most often, some of the children affected by one form of disability or the other are hidden and therefore unable to access basic education, but communities are taking action to address this. They are also making some demands to duty bearers, policy actors, and education managers, which ranges from removal of PTA levy, because these are hidden costs that prevent the child from accessing education. They are also looking at the need for more qualified teachers, issue of teachers, especially in the rural area. Communities are beginning to make those demands, and in some cases, addressing them through their contribution. Improvement to the system, including teacher training to education, which enable the child to attain basic education, are some of the demands the communities are making around infrastructure, land encroachment, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot that the communities are already doing to make the learning environment conducive, as well as make teachers accountable for the learning of their own children. What gaps remains? ESPN has partnered with government, with UKAID, civil society, but challenges still remain, and some of it centered around sustainability. How do we sustain community participation in basic education delivery? Where did we miss it? Where did we go wrong? We are also looking at how can the system be able to ensure that there are direct funding to schools. We cannot continue to build infrastructure without maintenance. You go to some communities, you find some schools were built in the 70s, and up to today there is nothing that comes to support those schools. The roofs could be blown off, the windows are off, the doors are off, and we expect the teacher to provide that which we desire, which is qualitative basic education, without the necessary provision and support for him to be able to do that. Government capacity needs to be continuously be developed around school-based management committee development beyond 2016, which is the lifespan of ESPN. Institutionalization is also key. How far are we? Who do we need? Who are our critical partners and players to support UKAID to champion this cause in the coming years? Civil society and government partnership is relatively new in the SPMC model. We need to continue to promote. We also need to continue to be sensitive to all children in terms of making the learning environment conducive, making the teacher comfortable, making the child comfortable, and making the system robust enough to bring about those desired change. What systems are in place to protect the child in this dispensation, where there are attacks on schools, attack on education? There are fundamental questions, there are fundamental issues which we need to begin to brainstorm and reflect upon. And how can this community of practice engage to bring about key options for us to move education delivery to the next level? Capacity of civil society to conduct evidence-based advocacy is already emerging in these 6 states, but we don't want to limit it to 6 states. Is education and security. Like I said earlier, all hands need to be on deck to brainstorm on this area, to come up with options that can make quality delivery of education realizable and possible in the coming years. And I would like to end with this. Go to the people, live with them, love them, learn from them, work with them, start with what they have, build on what they know, and in the end, when the work is done, the people will rejoice. We have done it ourselves. Thank you very much.
My colleague and I were saying, well, should we go to the second paper before we take questions? But anyway, if you say you want questions before we go to the next paper, can I hear you say, ah, yay? Eh? Or all those who say, aye? Or you don't have questions? Do we go to the second paper? Okay, so let's go to the second paper then. No need for that. The communique team and chair. I beg your pardon? All right, let me announce the communique team and chair first. Chairing our communique team is Professor Uchechukwu Okoro, Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Education, Enugu. Can we put our hands together for him? He's chairing our communique team. Our co-chairman is Alhaji Sani Abdullahi, Executive Chairman, Jigawa State Universal Basic Education. And then we have as members Alhaji Jibo Abdullahi, Director Northeast Zonal Office, UBEC. We also have Right Reverend Edwin Jarumai, Director North Central Zonal Office, UBEC. We also have Funke Bolaji, Sheyola, Mrs. Dunyo Rugu of UBEC, and Osom Osom as members. Thank you very much.
First and foremost, could you note your questions if you have questions on what Ajia shared, but also it's not about ESPN coming to tell you what they think. We're talking about community participation. Jigawa State and Lagos State have been brought forward as the example, so you might want to look for Jigawa and Lagos and do some interaction and networking and intermingling. And then when the questions are being asked, those of you from the floor, like for example, I will use again the examples of Jigawa and Lagos, since they are the ones who have been told that they have the most, they've made the most progress so far as far as this is concerned, and Kanu, that they should also share with us when the questions are being asked. They shouldn't wait for the paper presenter to answer all the questions. Is that agreed? Because I like the way the national program manager of ESPN put it. He said it's a national discussion. So one person cannot just be talking to themselves. We're the executive chairman, Kaduna State Subeb. It's Alaji Ishaya Akau. And he's talking on community engagement option, key drivers of school improvement. And he's giving us the Kaduna experience. So by the time he finishes, then the rest of us will also give us our own experience. Can we put our hands together for him again? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it appears the high table has disappeared.